What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday we had a bit of a tease from Nintendo for a big time title that appears set for the Switch, and it sounds incredibly obvious when you say it out loud, but we'll go over that here today and why some of the headlines are making it out to be a shocking or even a surprising thing. Also, we are going to be talking about Jedi Survivor. It's out at the end of this month, and I'm really looking forward to it. We had some previews go live that gave us a bunch of new information. And we'll also be taking a look at the Super Mario movie. It's out this week, and reviews went live, and well, some of them are kind of interesting. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass games for the month of April. These are titled Wave 1, so I would expect more games to find their way into the service throughout the rest of April. But let's take a look here, this over on news.xbox.com. Nice little card at the top to showcase all of the different titles, starting with Loop Hero. That's console and PC, it's out right now. Moving on to April 6th, we have Iron Brigade, cloud and console. April 12th, we have Ghostwire Tokyo, cloud, console, and PC. Moving to April 13th, NHL 23 on console, that's coming through EA Play. April 18th has Minecraft Legends dropping into the service. That is day one on Game Pass, cloud, console, and PC. I'm not the biggest Minecraft person, but I might check this out. Again, it's on Game Pass. I'll download it just to see what the game exactly is. But the one that I'd be looking towards is Ghostwire Tokyo. I played through it last year when it released on the PlayStation 5, and I thought it was a genuinely unique overall experience that you're really not going to find anywhere else. The tone, the setting, and I would even say some of the attacks and the animations that you get with the hand movements and stuff. Really cool stuff to see like in motion there. So again, I would check it out just to get a different experience that you're not going to find anywhere else. But overall, not a bad way to kick off the month of April with Game Pass. Also, we did have another new controller that was announced from Microsoft. They have a lot of controllers that they do on Xbox. This one, though, has a bit of a backstory. We can see over on the News Xbox website where they say the new Xbox Wireless Controller Remix Special Edition is made from partly reclaimed CDs, water jugs, and other controllers parts. So I guess any controllers that were sent in defective and they deemed them unrepairable and they just sent out a new controller, something to that nature. They have plenty of plastics and parts laying around, so you melt them down, and here you go, the Remix controller. They are going to be packaging it with like a rechargeable battery pack, so you don't use, I guess, disposable batteries, and it will come with the cable to charge and all of this USB Type-C. It coming in now at a price of $84.99, and it's releasing April 18th. Obviously answers the big question of what happened to all of those AOL and NetZero CDs that were shipped out and just showed up in your mailbox, or I guess you took off of the rack on the way out of the grocery store or something. I'm sure plenty of people remember that, but who knows, in a couple of years, I'll be like, hey, do you remember CDs in general? But hey, not a bad idea here to just reuse older parts and different plastics to create an $85 controller with a rechargeable battery pack. But if you're curious, it is out April 18th, and you can check that out over on the Xbox page now. Oh, and we did get an update when it comes to Quantum Break leaving Game Pass. Seemed a little strange because it is a first-party Xbox title, but we can see this from Remedy. Posted this up on Twitter saying, don't worry, Quantum Break will be coming back to Game Pass. It is temporarily removed due to some licenses that expired that were in the process of being renewed. We will let you know as soon as it is back, and that's kind of what we were thinking here, some speculation around there, just being some stuff they had to renew to keep the game up, and it's just dates, times, all that stuff. It doesn't necessarily all line up, and the game may need to be pulled down for a set amount of time before everything is checked across the board, and then it can go back up. So good news there. Quantum Break will be returning to Game Pass at an undisclosed date. Hopefully it's not too far off into the future. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo teasing a big time title for the Switch. And you're not gonna believe this, but it's possible that Nintendo may be developing a new Mario game for the Switch. I know, I couldn't believe it myself, but there were actually a lot of headlines popping up, and this came way of Variety as they had an interview with Mr. Myamoto himself, mostly as he made the rounds for the big media tour for Super Mario Bros. Movie. he was asked, hey, the movie's out now, when can we expect the next big Mario game? Whether it's 2D or 3D, just when's the next game coming out to more or less take advantage of the popularity and the hype that's really been created here by the movie itself? And all Myamoto says, hey, what I can tell you, look forward to the Nintendo Directs in the future. And that's kind of it. It's almost like maybe a Mario game could be announced at a Direct at some point. It's incredible stuff here, but I do think we are at least getting to that point where it's probably time for the next big 3D Mario game. And I know we've discussed the idea of a 2D Mario game, and I think that's still a possibility, to where you could have a 2D Mario game and then months later, even the following year later, a 3D Mario game. Might even work to launch the next platform, have the next Mario Odyssey, or I don't know, do people want a direct sequel to Mario Odyssey, or do they just want like a brand new Mario game, big 3D Mario game with a new concept? Because I know we went the route of Mario Galaxy to Mario Galaxy 2, and that worked out really well. Mario Galaxy 2 is a phenomenal game, but would we rather go off and do something else outside of doing the standard, put a 2 on the end of Mario Odyssey and call it a day? And then you come back to the whole thing of a 2D Mario game, and what can they do with that overall gameplay style to make it feel new and unique and different from the previous ones? Although I guess some of the other 2D Mario games, they didn't really do too much other than power-ups and different worlds, I guess. That's kind of the thing with 2D Mario versus 3D Mario. I think there's a lot more room for innovation with 3D as opposed to 2D, so I'm hoping that they just go for the next big 3D Mario game. It's been since Mario Odyssey. That's the launch year of the Switch. So it's 6 years now, and that's thinking it would come out maybe later on this year. We could go 7, even 8 years between big 3D Mario games. So as they continue to do that, and that gap continues to expand, the anticipation will continue to go up. But yes, I know it's hard to believe, but there is a possibility that a Mario game could be in development right now at Nintendo. Who'd have thought? Okay, I won't necessarily just leave you hanging with that, as we did get some solid information around the future of Mario when it comes to the mobile side of things, because consider this, we've had Mario Run and Mario Kart Tour, which is the newest Mario Kart game, considering Mario Kart 8 is from the Wii U, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you get that, but Myamoto did at least talk about what's next in terms of the mobile space, and if that's primarily where they're going to be putting their focus for Mario titles. And you can see this over on Variety, where they say mobile apps will not be the primary path of future Mario games. So I guess Mario Odyssey 2 is not going to Android and iOS. It's a shame, but hey, look towards the Switch, or who knows, maybe Nintendo's next generation platform for the next big 3D Mario game. Next up, let's talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is a game that I've been really looking forward to. Jedi Fallen Order, I thought was good, but it's pretty clear it was Respawn's first outing with an idea like that, the big 3D action adventure game that has lightsabers and stuff, but I thought it was a good foundation for them to build on, which it seems like that's what they are doing with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That is shaping up to be a big time release, and Star Wars fans, I'm sure, are very excited now to see the story of Cal continue. But we had some information that was revealed through a bunch of different previews. VGC had a very good write-up of some of their time with the preview build of the game, but we can go through some of the bullet points that were also collected online. Starting with some of the biggest feedback Respawn got had to do with customization. So lightsabers, hairstyles, clothing, this is all stuff you can edit, change around. I saw Cal with a mullet on Twitter at one point. They're gonna have different puzzles for a Jedi chamber room. Apparently it's being compared to shrines in Breath of the Wild. There's a lot more when it comes to traversal options like grappling. There are mounts even that you can ride around. There will be side quests. VGC did mention there's like a hub world, and as you're going through basically the mainline path, you'll see a lot of different quests pop up around you, whether it's from conversations or just people just running up to you and giving you side quests even to check out. So it is semi-open world. It's not going to be this massive world. There will be points in time where you go between different planets, and they say that there's at least 7 planets in the game to explore. But the thing that really I thought really has potential for this game are going to be the combat stances. You start with 3 of them, and VGC made a big deal about just the wealth of options for each stance. There'll be 5, so you will gain 2 more as you go through, but VGC was saying it kind of feels like an entire new play style completely when you switch between these stances. And then of course there will be new force abilities to earn and use, and the map itself is massively expanded beyond what we saw in the first one. And yes, Jedi Survivor is still drawing comparisons to the Souls-like genre, so everything I'm hearing here is great. I'm really excited for this title. I feel like I've seen enough, and I mean, we're getting pretty close to its release. We're, 3 or 4 weeks out now. It's coming out on the 28th, and I'll be there day 1 checking it out, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit on the podcast that weekend. Next up, let's talk about the Super Mario movie. It is out today, although there have been a lot of early screenings. Obviously, they'll do that for different critics to see it, but they've done a lot of promotional events, and again, Miyamoto's been making the rounds for media, and a lot of this are just early screenings for people to go to and check out. But let's take a look here on Metacritic. After a lot of reviews did go up, we can see it currently sitting at a 49. If we move over to the split currently, this is between 35 of them, 14 positive, 13 mixed, and 8 negative. We can check out here, we got this covered with a 90. Nintendo knows what's great about the Super Mario Bros. Games and perfectly brings them to life on the big screen. However, we can then move all the way down to the bottom here with a 20. This is from the Austin Chronicle. In going to such great lengths to avoid that film's grim weirdness, that being for the Super Mario movie, the live action one from like 3 decades ago. Super Mario Bros. Movie filmmakers have flattened the concept into benign nothingness. They've course corrected into the side of a mountain. There's no heartbeat here. Taking a look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's currently sitting at a 56%. I will say it started, I think, at a 49%, so it has been working its way up. And looking at some of the reviews, it is kind of all over the place, as you'd expect on Rotten Tomatoes, but some have mentioned that Chris Pratt is all wrong as the title character in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Others saying with a soundtrack of the 80s hits and a score that incorporates the game's iconic sound effects and songs, the animated film infuses old with new. However, there are some very strange reviews in here that I've kind of seen as I've gone over many of them. Some seems like they aren't at all aware of anything with Mario. One mentioned that it was such a tough watch because it's assumed that you know something about the Super Mario franchise, and I feel like most people are going to see this movie probably at least know Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach and probably Bowser, right? They at least have a general foundation of what's going on here, whether it's from playing the original game on the NES or playing the most recent one with Mario Odyssey. But I may have different expectations for this film than critics, which critics typically look at the movies, and obviously they're scoring movies that are going to sit up there with like the best movies of the year for the Oscars, and then family popcorn films like these, right? And that's kind of what I'm going into this expecting, is just a fun time that a family can go see and get a kick out of, because, oh look, there's Mario jumping all over the big screen. Anyway, I am going to be checking out this movie on Friday, and I'll at least give you guys an idea as to what I think, whether it's on the podcast, or let me know if you want to see a video where I attempt to review the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I don't really do movie reviews or anything like that. Not necessarily a lot of experience doing so, but I wouldn't mind giving some of my thoughts on the Mario movie if people wanted to see it. But otherwise, I'm sure I'll talk about it on the podcast Saturday night. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Nintendo Switch Online with a new update, bringing another Nintendo 64 game into the current library. And we can see this trailer here. It is Pokemon Stadium that will be releasing April 12th, again, directly into that Nintendo 64 application. And this didn't go over the best with fans, mostly because it was confirmed in the trailer that there wouldn't be any kind of transfer pack support, which shouldn't shock anyone at this time, considering there's no game to pull Pokemon from. There's not a blue or a red or a yellow that's currently available on the Game Boy application, so maybe it's being looked at as, well, okay, that's never going to happen. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. One was going to have to come before the other. Pokemon Stadium or red, blue, yellow. I think if red, blue, or yellow came before Pokemon Stadium, that would have been fine. But the thing with Pokemon Stadium is the reason it was such a big deal back in the day It was the first time we had the Pokemon go from our Game Boy and, little 8-bit looking tile graphics up to our CRTs then, but it was the Pokemon that we had on our cartridge represented as big 3D models on the Nintendo 64, and it was really cool to see that. And then you would take them through basically tournaments or like gym battles in Pokemon Stadium, and it was exciting stuff to transfer your Pokemon back and forth from the Game Boy cartridge to your Nintendo 64 through that transfer pack. But I will admit the experience now a bit different, considering we can play Pokemon directly on our big screen, which back then that would have been a mind-blowing thought. Oh, I can play the latest Pokemon game and it's just a console game basically now. But with Pokemon Stadium, if you don't have the ability to transfer Pokemon from a Game Boy cartridge to Pokemon Stadium, you're going to use rental Pokemon that are very basic, generic, and they just all are at the same level, and you kind of just run through different gym battles that way, so you don't really get tied to the rental Pokemon or anything like that. Otherwise, though, you do have mini games, which those are fun. I think there's 9 of them, and I remember like the Rattata one where you jump over different things that were coming up on a conveyor belt. That was fine. They're smaller mini games that you'll probably get tired of after a couple of minutes, to be honest, but it does bring back that thought of nostalgia, that feeling from back in the day when you and your friends would sit around the Nintendo 64 and play those mini games over and over and over again. Otherwise, though, you can play online against other people they mention in different battles, I guess still using those rental Pokemon. So a limited experience yet, but still a pretty fun experience with those mini games. Here's hoping someday in the future, Nintendo realizes, oh, we can make a lot of money with Pokemon Game Boy games being available on the service for new subscribers, all those different things, right? Bring them all in, and then they can transfer Pokemon from those titles to Pokemon Stadium, so here's hoping. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, do you think the next Mario game will be 2D or 3D? Look at this, 3D leading the way, 79%. 2D at 21%. Now, I do admit 3D would be way better to get because, again, I feel like there's more innovation there. 2D, however, is more approachable for the mainstream. And the mainstream, I think, is going to be what obviously gets attached to the Super Mario movie. So you got to weigh your options. However, I do believe, shocker, that there is a big 3D Mario game in development at Nintendo. It's just, can they get the timing at least within proximity of the movie, potentially for a release this holiday? Well, I guess we'll see. Hey, at a Nintendo Direct that may be happening, I don't know, around when E3 would have taken place this summer. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Vidman saying, I think the market is viable for another handheld. Stuff like the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, and Odin have been selling really well, and there are more coming out all the time. The Switch Lite is okay to take on trips, but I do miss the Sony side of things in the portable market. Yeah, it's just something I would like to see for that portable market, because I feel like Sony had a lot of good ideas with the Vita. They just could not execute when it came to the storage space, then being able to support it with games. The thing I will admit with Retroid, Neo, all these, there's so many of them always coming out. It's like that, the joke with cell phones. You buy a new one and it's outdated as soon as you take it out of the box. It kind of feels that way with those other systems, so I don't mind Valve sitting with the Steam Deck for a while and kind of working on it and perfecting it a bit on the software side of things as they continue to develop the hardware side in the background. And with something like the Switch or the Switch Lite, as you mentioned, it's supported for what we've seen 7+ years, and I feel like that's something that Sony could do if they decide to revisit the handheld market with a bit more, we'll say, interest in it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Nintendo teasing a new Mario game for the Switch? As outlandish I know as that sounds, do you think it might be a 2D or a 3D game? And then also, what about Star Wars Jedi Survivor? Are you looking forward to it after some of these previews? And then the Super Mario movie, it's out now. Are you going to see it this weekend? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.